It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
Hey everybody, Kyle Bunch
and Ben West,
and we are here at the R.A.C.E Real Action Community event in Villebois, and just so proud of our friend Trey and Leticia who have put this event together for our community.
Yeah, we're going to have really good conversations about big issues that we're all facing right now. It's about everybody bringing their perspective, sharing ideas, respecting one another, and making sure that we're advancing the cause for sometimes people that are marginalized in society.
So we're excited that you've joined us, and we hope that you enjoy what's to come from the R.A.C.E event.
See you guys.
Hey, people of Wilsonville, thank you for being here today. We have our event today, R.A.C.E, Real Action Community Event. Talk about race. Everybody share their thoughts, opinions, and just a place for gathering, a place for truthful speaking. Got some guest speakers. Then we're gonna have an open forum. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.
All right, good morning. My name's Leticia Perez, and we're here at Montauk Park. And today we're hosting another community conversation, exploring how race impacts different communities here in Wilsonville and the larger Portland area. I've always been passionate about justice and opportunities to make sure that everyone feels included. It's a lifelong journey. I've made mistakes, and there's lots of opportunities to learn from each other. So really, Trey and I met on Facebook. A lot of people think that social media, nothing good can come from social media, but we noticed that we were both passionate about having conversations around justice and issues with systems where maybe injustices are perpetuated over and over again. So we decided to create a space for community members to meet each other, have faces to names, and really learn from each other.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're here at the R.A.C.E meeting, and this is the second for Wilsonville, and it's a good way for our community to come together and hear from each other, and I hope you can participate.
I'm here because I want to support the community, and I came to the first one. It was raining cats and dogs, so we didn't get a big turnout. But today is about just sharing information, and I think that's what's going to help people understand different perspectives. There's guest speakers here that I'm familiar with, and just to hear their story about how they've dealt with law enforcement and adversity throughout their life. And I'm going to share some of my experiences growing up as a minority in a small town, and and it's I think it's just all about the reason why we're getting together today at this park is to learn about each other and hear people's different experiences and become better neighbors as a result.
So I'm Joanne Linville, and I am just delighted to be at this event because this represents an opportunity for everyone to come together and be in an environment of inclusion. And I am here to listen. This is not about me, and it's not about our council government. It is about really having an opportunity to listen to the lived experiences of the people in our community. And so I am delighted to be here.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ockervall. I am Council President for Wilsonville City Council, and I'm really happy to be here today. However, I'm not here to represent council or speak for council. I'm just here as a neighbor in Villebois. We've lived here for 10 years, and I love this neighborhood. I love this community. Villebois was designed to try to bring people together and have openness that we share. And I think this event is exactly an example of that. So I'm really happy to be here and listen and be with my community. Thank you.
My name is Joe Bean Keller, live in Portland, Oregon, and my son Deontay J. Keller was murdered by a Portland police officer then, Terry Kruger, who is now the Westland police chief that is currently on leave. And it was important for me to come back out here because listening ears have to be the ears of people who need to learn. Because if we teach them what racism is, if they see how racism has been affecting people for numbers of years, it starts sinking in when you put a face to it as well too. Like I said, my son was murdered in 1996, 24 years later, and justice is slowly bringing itself back around. When you're in Wilsonville, when you're in other areas, sometimes you just don't have your ear to the to the television, basically listening to it. You may hear it on news. Since it doesn't affect your community, you say, well, it doesn't affect me. But realistically, it does. Hatred comes from, from not knowing. If you don't know a situation, and there's an ignorance that comes about. And so then we perceive people of darker skin, black, brown skin, as different than us. We find ourselves, if we're in a position where we are privileged as being white, we would look at somebody differently as well too, and we may overlook situations that they may be going through because it's not affecting me. It's not affecting my family if I was that privileged white person as well too. So if you talk to people, if we don't talk about race and stuff, and we don't encourage people to talk about it, we will always be in that same bigoted, how would you say it, bigoted nation that is taking place now. And our objective is to change the nation so that everybody starts to find love within each other. We want to pass on to the kids that it's all right if your playmates are of different.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Wilsonville and Greater Portland residents. Trey and I are really thankful for our community that's supporting us as we bring people together from all different experiences, different places in Oregon or around the world really, to talk about how race impacts ourselves and our communities and to build awareness. It's our hope that this event make sure that people feel that they know how to get involved in improving our community. We have resources that are local to Wilsonville. So if you sign up, you'll get a local page that has all of the different ways to get involved in our community in terms of improving systems, joining book clubs, wherever you're called to speak.
Good morning. How you guys doing? My name is Trey. I live right over here, and I'm one of 4 organizers. So a couple of house rules. So number 1, have fun, be cool, respect. When somebody's up here talking, if you don't agree, that's fine. Just have some respect. The same respect you want for yourself. Real quickly, do me a favor. Turn to your left, turn to your right, to the person near you, next to you, near you. Say good morning. How you doing? Let's get this popping. First up, my man, Anthony Blake.
How you guys doing? Let me kind of introduce myself. My name is Anthony Blake, born and raised in Northeast Portland. Been there, it'll be 48 years next week. About 3.5 months ago, when the situation happened with George Floyd, I was never into protesting. I was never into marching. I was the type of person that sit on my couch and see it on TV and be like, man, I'm not going out there with them fools at all, right? So the first night when they started protesting and marching, I watched it on the news, and they were rioting and looting and all that stuff. So I'm watching, I said, see, that's why I don't go down there. That's why I don't deal with them people, right? So the next morning, I was on social media, and I saw my son and my daughter looking. I'm like, well, if they can do it, let me go see what's going on. As a parent, I wanted to go the next day for protection, and I'm going down to MLK, and it's like it was a parade of people going across MLK over the bridge. And I'm sitting there. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna sit in this line. I know it's not gonna be that long. So I'm sitting on the bridge. 10 minutes go by. People just coming. 15 minutes go by. People, I'm like, man, I'm not gonna sit here that much longer. So I back up, park my car, and I join the march. And when I tell you, a lot of things don't give me chills. But when I tell you, when I joined this march and it stopped on the bridge, and I just looked, and the sea of people that was there, it instantly changed my mind right there. Like, what is my purpose of being on this earth? What is the purpose God has me here on this earth to do? Because we all have a purpose while we're here. God has a purpose for you. But it's our job to find out what that is. Let me go forward a little bit. The day when we was doing the march, I really didn't realize how many people it was. Only I was on the bridge with the people, so you can't really see down that way or down that. Which is when I tell you, it was a half a mile of people. Like you couldn't even walk through. So that night, my son was down there also. He's a professional photographer and does the drone stuff and all that stuff. So I get on the social media that night, and I'm watching the social media. He had edited everything, and his drone footage that went over the river, I saw it, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not talking about just seeing it, seeing the people of different walks of life, different colors, different everything. And it was a beautiful thing because it was so much unity that I've never seen ever in my life. You know? And so that's what makes this whole movement so different. And this is my opinion, why it is. I think we've all grown up on the same culture. We feel each other's pain now. There's not a lot of racism in the homes anymore. Kids are not being taught racism anymore like it used to be. So I think that's a major part of it right there. It starts in the home. Kids are not born racist, they're taught being racist. And I think that's the change that's happening right now. It's not gonna change overnight. It's gonna change a little faster because you got social media now, and you get information out to a lot more people. August 1st, I put on my first march and protest. It was the first one I've ever done in my life. Like I said, I'm an event coordinator. I know how to put things together. So I got a team around me, educators, political people, youth advocates, couple more. But the march was so successful. I had about 8,000 to 9,000 people meet up at a park. We had speakers. I had Loretta Smith speaking. Had a couple other people speaking also. But when we left the park, we did the march. And when I tell you, when I'm standing on this truck and I'm looking at the sea of people, tears start coming down my face. Not because of the pain. I wasn't feeling any pain. It was the joy of seeing like something that I had been doing for so long. It all amounted up just to that one moment that changed my life forever. I want to thank you guys for coming out. I want to thank you guys for supporting what's going on, because you don't realize that how much we need you. I'm going to say that again. We need you. Because you got to realize only we can make ourselves embarrassed or hurt. Right? So if I'm seeing my brother out here doing wrong, I feel like I can check him and tell him, hey, look, that's not cool. And he's going to listen. But the moment me or him or one of us go out and see another race doing something, it seems like we're like the angry black person or the angry black woman. So that's why I said we need you to start checking your own people also. Sometimes you have to start making people feel so uncomfortable that they won't do it. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard to feel uncomfortable or make someone else feel uncomfortable, but that's the only way it's gonna work. We have to start checking our own people when they do wrong. And again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. This really means a lot to me and my community, to see the rural areas outside of Portland supporting this. Like, we need the rural areas just as much as we need Portland. We do. On my team, I got an organization called We Gonna Be All Right. We're the one did this march. So she's one of my educators. She works with the school system, right? So before you get up here, I'm gonna tell a little story. She's on my live, and she sees Ted Wheeler come and speak at this protest. I don't know how she got there that fast. She was like, no, I'm on my way. She gets down there on the stage. She moves everybody out of the way. Move. She gets the mic, actually takes the mic from Ted Wheeler. Ted, you remember me, don't you? He was like, yes, Kiki, I remember you. She said, now, I'm going to tell you now, if you don't do what you say you were going to do, I know where you live. This is on national TV. I know where you live. I'm going to come knock on your door, and I'm going to demand that you do what you're supposed to do. So when she did that, I said, I got to get her. I need her on my team. So long story short, she was on Channel 8, and she was talking about education. And what we're doing right now, we're trying to tackle the school to prison pipeline right now, which is one of the biggest businesses in the country. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. They keep these charts, right? So when you get into high school and something happens to you, or you get in trouble in high school, they already got that. They already got this information on you. So they deem you a troubled child from the get-go, from the first mistake. So that's what we're trying to tackle right now is that, because they are recruiting young black boys and girls from elementary school to go to prison to make them money. There you go. Exactly. So I'm gonna have her come up and speak for a minute or 2 or 3. She said she wasn't, but I want her to come up here. You guys. So one more thing before she says something. So she was on Channel 8. She was talking about the education system and getting real deep into it. And so what was it, a couple days after that? A week after that, she gets a letter in the mail. And when I tell you this letter that she got, it made me, all the work that I had been doing with this, it made me want to stop doing that and going back to doing things that I used to do, because I was so angry at this letter that she got. When I saw the letter, it took me back to the 60s with the scare tactics, with Jim Crow, all that stuff. So I'm gonna have her come up and say a little bit.
So like you said, my name's Kiki. So I've been working in the education system for about 15 plus years, born and raised in Northeast Portland. Part of the gentrification, pushing everybody out of North and Northeast Portland. I'm really big on the knowledge of the school to prison pipeline. I've spoken with multiple people and nobody knows exactly what it is. So for those that don't know what it is, whenever a kid gets suspended or expelled from school, they are 3 times more likely to be in the justice system. If we notice, a lot of the disciplinary system matches what the justice system looks like. If a white teacher walks up to a black student and say, I fear for my life, that's an automatic 10-day suspension. While that student is out of school for 10 days, are they getting education? Are they getting homework packets home? They're not receiving education. And so the fact that someone's perception of another individual determines the future of that child. So I'm always trying to educate people on what that looks like. Like he said, I got a death threat. At first, I was like, wait a minute, do I need to be out here? But reality is I do. As we notice, everybody's talking about defunding the police. Nobody's receiving a death threat because they're saying defund the police. But now that I'm shining light on the biggest system that is in the United States of America, not just here in Oregon, now I'm getting a death threat. So it kind of pushed me to talk more about it, because there's a lot of people that don't know nothing about it. And so if I was not to talk about it, then guess what? We will still be uneducated. There's a saying, if you know better, you do better. So now that you know about it, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to help the next generation to become something? How are you going to help the next generation to be successful? So like I said, when I first got this letter, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm a mom, so I have to protect my kids. But then I thought about it. I said, you sent this to me because I'm shining light on something that needs to be talked about. This affects the whole world. This doesn't affect just Portland, Oregon. And in order for it to change, we have to talk about it. So what I ask from you guys today is educate your people. If there's something that you know and your neighbors don't know, it's your responsibility to educate your neighbors. Once again, if you don't know, you can't do better. Once you do know, it's your responsibility to take the information that you have and to share it. And it's also your responsibility to hold your neighbors and others accountable for their actions. Thank you.
All right. How's everybody doing with the heat so far? Everybody staying hydrated? Word. Cool. Let's keep this going. Yeah. So next up is a great man, John Wolf. Please welcome my counselor, my man. He's also a duck fan. Hook, John Wolf.
Well, thank you. Just briefly on myself, I'm the 4th generation born free in my family. My father was one of 9 children raised in Oxford, Ohio. My mother, an only child. My father left Miami of Ohio University after his sophomore year to become one of the first black Marines of World War II. Upon his return, he completed his degree in social work and married my mother, who had earned a Master in Fine Arts at Wilberforce College. This is all in the 40s. Dad became a civil rights activist, serving as a plaintiff for the NAACP, opening swimming pools, movie theaters, drinking fountains, all of the places where my people weren't allowed to be. I remember my father telling me a story when he went to open up, do what he had to do to be the plaintiff. He had to buy a ticket for these things. And so he had gone up to the swimming pool to buy a ticket, and the person giving the tickets knew my grandfather, who was a janitor at Miami University there in Oxford, Ohio. And this man said to my father, said, "Scotty, you know I can't let you buy a ticket." He goes, "You know I know Pete. I know your dad. He's a good man. But I just can't let you buy a ticket here." And my father said, "That's exactly why I'm buying the ticket." Right? So it was dangerous work. It was tireless commitment for equal rights. And so he passed that on to myself. I'm also a social worker. Now I have a small program, small business that's getting larger, serving black youth, black and brown youth, BIPOC youth in school systems, called Youth Empowerment Project. A shameless advertisement. So I stand on the shoulders of people denied the right to vote, and I want to emphasize that in this speech, if you will. It's called 1965. The year was 1965. The first 3,500 U.S. soldiers landed in North Vietnam. The Sound of Music was released into theaters. Stone Mountain Park in Georgia opens 100 years to the day Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. The unmanned Gemini 2 was launched on a suborbital test flight. Gas was 31 cents per gallon. And a loaf of bread cost 21 cents in 1965. But something else had occurred during that year. On August 6, 1965, the former Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, who had taken the office after the tragic assassination of John F. Kennedy, signed into federal legislation the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It is important to note the year 1965 because the new law would be later amended no less than 5 times to expand its protections. The act was to secure the voting rights guaranteed by the 14th and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, most effectively targeting Southern blacks, former slaves. But did it? It wasn't enough to increase poll taxes or gerrymandering voting district lines, intimidate, threaten, or require a black person to degrade themselves by guessing how many jelly beans were in a container in order to vote. Right? You take a guess here. It wasn't enough that the genocidal attack and with every intention to eradicate the Native American. It wasn't enough to enslave and ship Africans, turning them into chattel to be traded and bartered as property to fulfill the economic engine of the United States. Those in power waited as long as they could before a strategy of activism and global shaming, launched and strategically advanced by civil rights activists, would force the white power structure to capitulate their position, if only to demonstrate a recognition to the U.S. Constitution. The same Constitution which they so ardently, if not ritualistically, proclaimed had been forged by the forefathers of the country. And yet, 55 years later, we again are demanding for the Voting Rights Act to be upheld. Section 5 and 4B having been found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court decision of 2013, Shelby County versus Holder. That would be Shelby County, Alabama, versus Eric Holder Jr., the Attorney General at the time, an Obama appointee. Is it not enough that a country declares freedoms for all its people, a declaration of independence from tyranny and injustice, an obliging promise of fairness and democracy where individuals are promised the pursuit of happiness? Instead, we again are reminded of our country's racist past, wanting to keep it hidden from view, lest we demand for change and a true democracy. John Gutzon Borglum, the 19th century sculptor who carved Stone Mountain, the tribute to 3 Confederate generals, was sponsored by the KKK. As well as Mount Rushmore, being built upon sacred grounds of the Lakota Nation in South Dakota, the mountain was known to the Lakota as the 6 grandfathers, standing for the 6 directions, north, south, east, west, above, and below. Borglum convinced South Dakota to blast and chisel that mountain for 14 years to his tribute to the 4 white presidents. Mount Rushmore represents with the cultural appropriation and arrogance of a people who long to hold on to their supremacy. We must be vigilant in our activism and open toward discourse and true understanding toward equal rights and justice for all. The power for change lies within the ballot in each of our hands. The action steps for us to take are plentiful. Make sure to get the word out to those closest to you to send in their ballots as quickly as possible. Establish a neighborhood group and strategize your goals to getting out the vote. Initiate a Get Out and Vote campaign. Start a phone tree to encourage and remind your friends and family to vote as soon as possible. You all don't have to go and talk to people you don't even know. Just look at and count up the numbers of family and friends you have and talk to them and talk to them about this. We must defend our belief in true democracy and race equity. We must commit to our belief and demonstrate that commitment by voting must occur. We must challenge and not lay quiet or idle as our constitutional rights are manipulated for the few while the many remain destitute and hopeless. As John Lewis described, the necessary acts of defiance often needed to create change as good trouble. A destination of race, equity, peace, and understanding will be our triumph. And for good measure, my Mount Rushmore is Martin Luther King Jr., Chief Joseph of Nez Perce, Harriet Tubman, and Barack Obama. I will ask you to think about what is yours. And lastly, as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, the time is always right to do what is right. Thank you.
The conversation has to continue. The protests open doors that have been closed. And doors are opening, and we all have spheres of influence. These conversations need to continue. And they're going to look different for different people. We're asking that you join the conversation, that you continue the conversation in your different spaces. If it's online, if it's with a neighbor, but the conversation needs to continue. The learning needs to continue. And so get plugged in. If you don't know how to get plugged in, ask us. I didn't know. I moved here 5 years ago. I'm from Southern California, and this issue is systemic. So are we talking about, that's where you want to get plugged in, you're in education, work on systems. If you want to work in a small book club and educate your friends in your close circle, that's a way to get plugged in. But we can't say, now that we've seen it, that we do nothing. We need to move forward, and we can move forward as a community.
Ben, what an incredible event we had here today in Villebois.
Yeah, it was an honor to be here. It was an honor to speak. And I think this is an important episode for everybody to sit down, watch, and learn about everybody's perspectives here in Wilsonville.
Yeah, and we really hope that you enjoyed it and learned from it. And again, thank you to Trey and Leticia for putting this whole event together. And we hope that you join us next week. We're going to be out at Frog Pond Farms with Justin Tim, checking out the cool drive-through safari, something that they've done for their business to adapt during COVID.
Yeah, and one last thing I want to leave everybody here with is make sure that you're doing everything you can in your life to make sure you're living up to America's promise for all people who live here. So everybody have a great week, and make sure you tune in next week for Frog Pond Farms.
Amen. Have a good week, everybody.
Take care, guys.